Welcome to this week's Bitcoin mining conversation with the founder and owner of Liquihash, Nic Campesi. This week, we'll be discussing the Bitcoin markets and what to expect in the coming future. So let's just dive in. Thanks for joining me, Nic.
Hey, pleasure as always.
So for my first question this week, the madness in the Bitcoin markets continues to produce mixed feelings about the future. Yet, the price of Bitcoin appears to be trying to stabilize. Is Bitcoin mining designed to successfully navigate these volatile waters and markets? And is this something that we will pretty much see in the future at a recurring basis?
We got to step back and remind ourselves that, this is still a very small market. I think the last I looked, we're sitting around a market cap of like 400 billion. And, so you're going to have volatility, especially with so many eyes on it. Look, we're responding to hawkish comments on the Fed, which causes the price to go down. The interesting thing, I think that it could continue to go down. I think there's some macro headwinds, as we've spoken about in the past, that I think are going to put downward pressure on the U.S. dollar denominated price of Bitcoin. However, at the end, you got to look at a few things. I mean, one, the bids that are looking to snatch up Bitcoin in the 15 to 20K range. I mean, there's a big order book. So, it's going to be interesting to see. I think this could take a couple months to really kind of sort out. I mean, and then we could be in a multi-year sideways pattern for a while before we start, off to the races again. But, I would tell you right now, I mean, I think that, this is the perfect market for mining, because if you have a sideways price, you're going to, if you deploy properly at the right valuation, the right operational efficiency, you are going to beat the buy and hold strategy or dollar cost averaging.
Yeah, that's very interesting. And with that, the Federal Reserve Chair, Jerome Powell, said that interest rates may have to stay elevated to stamp out inflation. So kind of like with the last question, is Bitcoin mining something that can get through this era?
Yeah, I mean, look, the difficulty is set to adjust in 15 hours up 7.5%. That's, the difficulty to mine a block, which is every 10 minutes, which, is running fast. And that's a function of more hash coming online. So, people have been through this now. There's been a few down cycles, and people know the best thing to do is to plug in a miner. And so, are we going to have the margins we had last year when Bitcoin is 60, 70, almost 70,000? No. But right now, if you've got real low cost power, Bitcoin mining is still very viable. Can it go lower? Absolutely. And do I think it will? Probably so. I do think that we're going to get a good push, especially with the amount of people still going and deploying, very large swaths of equipment. But, I was of the camp that we would cross 300 exahash by the end of the year. And I mean, it would, it would take just the most crazy, thing for that to happen at this point. I mean, it would just, we're at 224 right now. So, so I think, as of right now, I mean, we would be really hard to add another 75 exahash between now and the end of the year. But, never say never.
Yeah, so this is probably correlated with the inflation, but the US dollar just hit its 20-year high and Bitcoin just dropped below $20,000. Do you think that's correlated?
Yeah, I mean, look, when we're pricing Bitcoin in US dollar terms, the strong dollar is going to cause the downward effect in Bitcoin. I mean, that I think anytime you're pricing something in U.S. dollars, it's a function of value of dollars. But what I tell people who are getting into Bitcoin, maybe they're just starting, is dollar cost average. And remember, one Bitcoin is one Bitcoin. And, you can go back and listen to the stories of people that say, yeah, I sold 1,000 Bitcoin for a laptop. I needed, 500 to buy a car. I mean, these are numbers that, to go out and get that amount of Bitcoin now, it takes a big bank account or, some way to go earn a lot of Bitcoin. So, I tell her, I mean, look, this is the time where, if you could get in and you can start mining, and if you've got a good capital stack or you've got some cheap energy, now is the time to go and build up your stack. And, by mining, you're going to end up with more if you do it right.
Interesting. And I've heard some Bitcoin professionals saying that this, quote, Bitcoin winter is not really that bad after all, and that there are good days to come in the future of Bitcoin. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, I 100% believe that this is not that bad. We're still, as of the last time I looked at it, almost near a double-digit hash price. I think we were like 9 cents when I last took a peek at it. But, if I think that could go to 5, and it will. When you have a halving, the emission is going to go down, so what is that going to just trend down until the halving? And then, eventually the turnaround happens afterwards. Who knows? I think there's a lot of things. I think that, you wouldn't want to be short Bitcoin the day the Fed pivots and turns dovish. How long is that going to take? Is it really them pivoting that's going to matter, or them just even hinting that they're going to pivot, or possibly stalling that could cause it to spin around? And so, in my opinion, that is the bottom. And so what that looks like, could that have already be in? It's possible, but I think we've got a lot of time left to get, from a Fed policy standpoint, this could continue for a while, and it could kind of be the perfect storm to continue downward pressure on the price. And, my overall thoughts is that is the perfect market for mining. Scale into your operations, find super low cost of power, find super low, operational expense in every way you can, and stack as much of the Bitcoin as you can. Sell what you need to pay your operational expenses if you think that, it could go down further. But at some point, you'll get to a point where you start getting more Bitcoin, and so if the price goes down, that's the one thing that a lot of people don't, always realize, is that, prices going down many times turns into a excellent opportunity for miners, because then difficulty adjusts and causes the miners who are still online to start making more Bitcoin.
It's very, very interesting. And considering all the questions that I've asked and the things we're talking about, do you think that mining Bitcoin with excess energy sources, such as hydro plants that sometimes produce too much power for the grid, for example, is still the best way to mine Bitcoin for the long run?
Okay, so that, like controllable load resource, CLR, I think that is excellent. Nuclear plants, a hydro facility, wind, solar, those types of things. Yes, I think that is an excellent fit, and there's awesome things on the horizon that's going to put Bitcoin as a piece of key electrical infrastructure in the future, as a controllable load resource, demand response. I think that there's a lot of opportunity as well for power that just can't get in the market. Perhaps it's some of the most energy rich areas are just in the middle of nowhere. And maybe, you have a lot of gas that can't get into Henry Hub, that you can't get a spot price for. But that gas it's a usable commodity that would otherwise been vented or flared, that you could hook up a generator and make power at a very low cost. So I think there's a lot of different ways. There's guys that are going out and injecting, nitrogen or other inert gas into landfills and then mining off of the methane. I mean, heck, that hasn't even really started yet. And you've got, tens of thousands of these landfills that could go in. So, I think that it's, there's going to always be grid infrastructure. There's going to be off grid. There's going to be situations like, a project that I'm working on now where we're looking at, the development of this very large energy park. And it's a chicken and egg scenario where with the chicken, it's the analogy of I can go build a power plant, but then have nowhere to send it. The power once I build it. So can I just run this power plant? Well, the idea we have is we're going to hook up the power plant and we'll mine Bitcoin until tenants come into the energy park and take that load and then just scale down the operations. So, we are on the cusp of this thing becoming, I think, mainstream. And, long said, hey, it's going to be about a decade. It's happening faster than that. This is stuff that's, people are going to look back in 2-3 years and say, holy cow, we just went where we thought we were going in 10 years into.
Wow. So got to start now. So how large should those Bitcoin mining operations be for that kind of excess energy source?
Look, it could be as simple as couple hundred kilowatt up to many megawatts. It just depends on everyone's unique situation. Someone who has a small project that might not make sense for us to manage might just want us to come in and say, hey guys, we'll set you up and we'll get you fixed up, and give you as much hand holding as you need. But, if it's done properly and you have stable power, you might not need any, or very little. So there's a number of things. We look at projects that are going to be a little larger because we can kind of be picky and choosy because there's a lot of projects and, we've got a limited amount of capital to deploy. So we're going to look and say, hey, this is the best project. But, we've got a lot of projects that are just on the shelf that should the economics change or, more capital come in to our company, we could immediately deploy on them.
Is it difficult to properly set up and manage a Bitcoin mine if you're new to the space?
I think if you've never mined Bitcoin before, then you need to have somebody to help you to get going with it. And there are a lot of pitfalls. There are a lot of things that someone like us could go in and put together. And there's, it's just having a good partner. I mean, and we're willing to do, in everything from power generation to selling, leasing a space to just saying, hey guys, maybe they have no capital, but they've got a good project. Us come in and just do the whole thing, and they take a little small piece of it for putting the site together or the energy. So, I definitely think that, if this is beyond just doing a little bit of Google research, it's really good to have somebody who knows the ins and outs because it's a multidiscipline business. I mean, you've got electrical, you're dealing with the cooling, you're dealing with chip selection. Some miners work better in different environments. Some you don't want to work in the heat. Another thing that is not readily known, is that, it's like what, are you buying the right equipment for that job that could be extremely advantageous to make one little selection, such as like a fan or a certain type of PDU that controls these things. And so that's why I think, if it's your first foray, it is good to have someone that's going to help you set it up.
So it sounds like Liquihash, your company, really is like the partner that can come in and help an energy company or individual with Bitcoin mining rather than just an outsourced solution and, you get paid and leave. More like a team member that's going to guide you, create the mine, and manage the mine. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, I think, if someone has capital and a site and good energy, then, we could simply just kind of come in and set the thing up and give them whatever level of management that they want. If they have energy and no capital, we could come in and put the whole project together. Obviously, in that case, we're primarily the lion's share of the profit because we're putting all the capital in. And there's also situations where, if you've got capital, but you don't have a site and you love this space and you want to invest in it, there's a lot of different ways that we can help you, whether it's, do you want some tax breaks for investing in an opportunity zone with just the energy? That's a really interesting play right now is that, we could go out and have an investor come in and do a power generation deal where they front some of the money for the power generation and get paid an unbelievable yield for their capital, for us really just arbing the price between what we can make power at and what we can wholesale it out to someone to mine. And so in that case, you're not even really exposed to Bitcoin. It's just a pure power deal. And the numbers are really attractive because, I mean, we're talking like Bitcoin could go sub $5,000 and this whole deal's still economical. And so really interesting stuff. And so, I think everyone is different, but, if you're an accredited investor and you've got some cash and you want to get into this space, I think the returns you're going to get here are going to blow away anything else that I have seen. It's way higher than even the most best value add commercial real estate stuff I'm seeing. Better than oil and gas. I mean, it is truly awesome opportunity right now to invest in this space. And as the big guys get in and the more capital comes in, that's going to go down. So, I think if it's capital you have, we need to talk. If it's a source that you think could make power, maybe you run off some type of a plant that co-generates power and sells back to the grid. And maybe you could internally use some of that and mine Bitcoin with it. And instead of, getting a couple cents a kilowatt hour, you're making 10 cents a kilowatt hour. And so that is ultimately, I think, the time to do this is now, not when Bitcoin turns around, because when it turns around, you won't be able to get the equipment and you'll be behind the people that made the move now.
So if an energy company or individual really needs to contact you about creating and managing a Bitcoin mine for them or anything, what is the best way to contact you?
Look, the best way I would say is you can go to liquihash.com or you can email me. And if you just hit the contact form on liquihash.com, I will get a copy of that as well to my email, and I'll get right back with you.
Great. Sounds good. So for everyone listening, thank you so much for tuning in. And like Nic just said, if you have any questions or comments or need to contact him about creating, managing a Bitcoin mine, just go to, again, liquihash.com, which is liquihash.com. Thanks again, and we'll see you all next week.